So I'm glad to have you here on the Shapeshifters podcast.
Oh, glad to be here.
Episode 6 that we have right now. We have Carla Monroe, singer and songwriter from the UK. And it's your first time out here in Berlin, right?
It is my first time, yes. I feel like I should have been here 100 times over because the music scene here is so good. But it's the first time for everything, so I'll definitely be back.
Would you trade it for London?
No.
Just like from the...
You know, I'm just a creature of habit. So I think London has like all my home comforts. Obviously my family's there. But sometimes it's nice to go to new places just for inspiration. And I think this is definitely one of those places. Yeah.
So you do also picture yourself coming back more frequently?
100%. There's a cool vibe here. And I think on my next journey, I'm definitely going to do some more songwriting and sessions and stuff like that. So I can kind of feel out the scene here a bit more.
Yeah, nice. I mean, you were born and raised in East London, right?
Yes, part of my childhood was in East London, yeah.
Part of your childhood?
Yeah.
And you have Dominican roots, is that correct?
Yes. So my grandparents are Dominican on both sides, which is not typical.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
How was it growing up with that background in London? Was it, or just in Britain in general?
Yeah, I mean, London's very eclectic anyway, but I think growing up within Dominican
Oh, nice. So that's also, you already said it was quite electric, that household, that Dominican household.
Yeah.
You also had all these different influences
Definitely.
of music.
Yeah.
I think you said there was like a lot of Motown played,
Yeah.
90s music, R&B.
Yeah,
Is that
hip-hop.
Hip-hop as well.
Yeah. So
Was that kind of like where you were introduced to like the world of music and where you also learned to love it?
Definitely. It was actually, my uncles used to play a lot of hip-hop, and them times they used to just take me to the record shop and used to pick vinyls, and, you know, I'd be there. I'm not really understanding what was going on, but they'd come home and then they'd, you know, play the vinyls. And that was probably when I was first introduced to it. As I got older, I started to become more interested in that process. And my uncle would actively take me to the record shop and talk to me about the kind of records that he was picking and what the samples were in some of those songs, and then he would do me like playlists for me to take back home with me, and yeah, it was really sick. But so as I grew up, the music was always the backdrop for me. That was always a part of my life, whether, you know, consciously I realized it or not was another thing, but it's always been present in my life.
Was he a musician himself, or
No.
was it just like his
No, he's just a
hobby?
DJ in his own right, exactly.
Okay.
So DJing and playing music is his hobby, and he still does it even now. But I think back then it was just, he was just sharing his passion and his love for music with me, and I think somehow it's, you know, fed off onto me, and I've definitely absorbed that, because those are some of my greatest memories. Like when I think about music and how I started, that was really where it started. With my uncle.
So cool.
Yeah.
Nice to have an uncle like that.
I know, yeah. Big up Uncle Julian.
Uncle Julian?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And you then kind of dabbled in that realm, and also, but most of the stuff that you as a singer and songwriter do, you kind of learned autodidact, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think I definitely have necessarily, you know, the hip hop and the R&B genres, but definitely they have themes in the music that I write definitely come from that world.
And which artists were like kind of the most influential in that sense?
I would say people like Mariah Carey. She was massive. I just remember getting like a CD, and Aaliyah was a big influence to me as well, but like getting my first CD, and it was like Mariah Carey compilation album, and like just listening to the songs back to back, and then not only just listening to the song, but then listening to the vocal, and like, oh, the melodies, why did they pick those melodies? And then the words, oh, what's the story in this? So, yeah, I think those are probably the two key kind of female influences, I would say, I had growing up. Yeah, I would say they're probably the key ladies.
And how did you go about then? Because you were quite autodidact. Did you have someone teaching you how to sing and how to songwrite, or was it really just studying all the music, studying the different artists, seeing the patterns that are lying behind the music, and then kind of also using that for yourself or understanding it and then producing your own?
Yeah, I think I just always had an interest. So like even going to the record shop with my uncle, I was always curious. So I remember being a teenager and always having a love for singing and dancing and, you know, the arts. And so my mum signed me up to Saturday school. It's called Sylvia Young, and it's quite a big musical theatre school in London. And that was a Saturday school that I used to go to, but it wasn't pop music that we were singing. It was more, you know, theatre kind of music, performing arts. So aside from that, I would just get CDs, and again, was never really listening to it as a song. I would start to deconstruct the lyrics. That was just an interest that I had. I don't know why, but it was just something that I did. And then I used to get my sister to stop and start the song. So I would write the lyrics out as the song's playing, and then I would say, press pause now. So then she would pause so I can finish writing the lyrics. Okay, now press play. She would press play, get the next line, write it down. So by the time we get to the end of the song, I've got all the lyrics written down, because them times there was no like lyrics on the back there wasn't always on the back of the CD. There wasn't the Google. Exactly. I sound so old now, but there wasn't Google where you could just like, you know, find the lyrics. So you had to like figure them out. So that's really, I'd say, how I became really interested in the lyrics in the songs and the storytelling behind, you know, some of these songs as well. So I would say that was probably my first introduction to like learning the craft. You know, no one really taught me that, but it's like noticing certain patterns, noticing certain structures. Why is it that there's always this section that comes in before a chorus? Oh, that's a pre-chorus. What happens after the chorus? Is there like a drop or a hook section? Oh, so that's what that is called. Why does the bridge go here? Oh, but it's a pattern that I've noticed in every song. So it's things like that you start to kind of pick up as you're doing your own kind of research, if you like. Yeah.
Would you also advise someone who maybe wants to go in that field that you're in? Would you also, because I'm an avid supporter of learning by doing, would you also support the idea of you don't necessarily need to study it, but rather if you go into the material, delve deep in it, and really get familiar with how everything is set up, etc.? Is that something how you would still go about it, or would you maybe today even like think, you know what, let me just study it?
Yeah, I think, because
actually, just like what fits for you better? I guess.
I think my advice would be just throw yourself into everything. I think the more knowledge that you have and the more you equip yourself with, you know, the knowledge in the craft, I think the better chance you stand. Like the better you're going to be, the stronger you're going to be at anything. And I actually mentor at a music college. And I'm in awe of some of these students. They're so musical, can play instruments, just really super talented and very, very bright. I can't play an instrument. So that's something that I wish that I'd done. I wish that I'd learned to play the piano from a young age, because now trying to learn to play the piano, it's not so easy.
Yeah, of course.
So I would definitely say just dive into everything, be curious, you know, ask questions, but at the same time, you do have to, I think, learn your craft. So if it means picking up an instrument and learning how to play, or learning multiple instruments, you might be great at the piano, but why don't you learn to play the guitar? You have to stretch yourself in some way. So I think, do it all.
At which college are you as a mentee?
Yes, it's a music college called ICMP, which stands for the Institute of Contemporary Music Performance. And I mentor music students there, specifically songwriters, 1 day a week. So they get to ask me any questions that they like, and I get to bore them with my life story.
No, I think it's probably the best way to learn, right? From someone who's successful in that field, right?
Yeah, true.
But coming coming back to like you, in an interview before, you said it hasn't always been easy, basically.
No.
And I mean that the success didn't come overnight.
Yeah.
I mean, there was even a time like in 2013 where you kind of laid off the music and said, you know what,
I'm done.
You're done, or
Yeah.
this is not working at this moment.
Yeah.
And you started a job at a prison, right?
Yes.
For 4 years. Like,
Yeah.
what was that job? And just in general, I mean, it's always kind of hard, like putting your dream to the side. What kind of made you do that, first of all? Like, put it to the side. And was that period of time quite hard for you?
It was, yeah. It definitely wasn't easy, but I think at that time, I just didn't have necessarily the right influences around me. So music is notoriously hard to get into. We were having a conversation about this earlier. It's very hard to make a living off of, music. So anything that's very competitive will take a length of time and a length of work that you need to put in. And I think at that stage of my career, I kind of just was expecting it to just happen overnight, and I was just going to, have my big break and it's going to be easy. So the reality was that it really wasn't. And instead of having people around me that were kind of encouraging me and motivating me to go on, it felt like everybody was saying, no, actually, you're right. This isn't going to work. And you should probably just get a full-time job, and you should probably just give up and just, get serious. So that's what I did, because I was just like, well, this thing just isn't working, and maybe everyone is right. So, I quit music, and I got a full-time job working in Belmarsh, which is category A prison in the UK. It's a men's prison, and it's known for having some of the most prolific offenders there. But as difficult as that job was for 4 years, it's probably one of the best experiences of my life in terms of just like humbling me. And I think I needed something like that just to give me a bit of reality check maybe, and to just help me become more grounded. Like, while I was getting so caught up about, not having my big break or not having that moment, there's people living in really difficult circumstances out there. So for me, it was a reality check, and I think a really good experience for me working there, as tough as that was. But yeah, during that 4 years, I didn't really write much music. I didn't make music. I think I was quite angry and bitter with music, because I would hear songs on the radio and I'd be like, oh, I wrote a song that sounds just like that. No one wants it. Or like, I could write a song just as good, but all of that was just like kind of quite resentful, I think, of me. So I completely let music go, and I was just like, I'm just going to leave that over there, and this is my new life. And genuinely, I could see myself just working there for as long as I needed to work there for, and just, that was just going to be me. And then 4 years in, I got a random phone call just saying, did you write a song called 17? 4 years, prior to this. So I said, yeah, probably, I don't know, like really like nonchalant about it. And they were like, there's this DJ called MK, he wants to put out this song. We don't know if it's going to be number 90, it could be number 9 in the chart, we don't know. Can we just put it out? Because we've got your demo, your vocals on there. Can we put this out? And at that point, I was just like, just do whatever you want, because I was over it. I just thought music was done. And then fast forward a year or whatever it was, 6 months, it becomes a top 10, and it's like being played everywhere. And that was the song that changed my life. And I was able to quit my prison job and do music full time. And I've never looked back. But every morning, genuinely, this is the truth, I wake up and I'm so grateful that I don't have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go to work in a prison anymore. So that's what keeps me, I think, humble, I think. And that's never far away in my mind, that job that I had. So, yeah.
It actually turned out to be number 7, right, in the UK singles,
yeah,
and
it was.
number 1 in the UK dance single chart.
Oh yes, very good. Good
pretty
research.
amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that must have been really crazy. Like, from your point of view, like, you just basically gave up, and then 4 years later, it's not even like a couple of months, a year or two.
Yeah.
Like, I can imagine that moment must have been crazy. Like, 4 years later, it must have almost felt like a dream. I can imagine.
100%. And when I tell people the story, like, oh my God, this is a great story. And I'm like, it's a great story, but it's also doesn't happen very often, right? It is not a typical, so it's very strange. But I'm a true believer in everything happens for a reason. Sometimes things are just meant to be. And, me personally, I feel that I kind of wanted the music thing to happen so badly at that time that I almost suffocated that opportunity. I almost like stifled it. So I think the moment I took a step back and a step away from it, just let it just do its thing, that's when it came and found me. So yeah, I think I'm just grateful that it turned out this way.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd still be working in that prison otherwise.
Absolutely crazy. But you said there were like a lot of people around you that kind of pushed you also more in that direction of like, you know what, bury that dream and maybe start a 9 to 5.
And not so much in a negative way. It
Not
was
in a negative
more
way,
of like
okay.
we want the best for you. We can see that music isn't going the way that you want it to go. We can see it's making you upset.
Okay.
So maybe you should do something else. It was more in that kind of way. But maybe at that time I just needed a bit of encouragement. I don't know, to keep going. Maybe if I'd kept going, maybe it wouldn't have happened. Who knows? So, yeah.
So it wasn't necessarily in a very negative way. It's rather just people looking out for you.
I think at the time it felt like it was being very negative. But now I look back, I think I can look at it from a different perspective, which was, I think it came from a place of love. Yeah, and I just think they thought maybe you'll just get quicker results if you do something else. Yeah.
I mean, you're now a very well-established artist, right? Like you almost have 3 million.
I don't know. I still got a way to go.
On Spotify. But I mean,
in
a certain part of the music industry, you are. I mean, you're very known for like the house bangers that are being played in Ibiza in the summer. I mean, you also travel there quite a bit, probably in summer, right?
Yeah, I've been there
for live
a few times,
shows and stuff. Which part? Because the songwriting is also something that you're very good at. Which of the two shoes do you like to fill more? Because I mean, the one is like being the artist and the singer and being like out in the spotlight and having to perform and having a high level of energy that you have to give people. And the songwriting is more like, okay, I'm in the back seat. I write my stuff at home. I'm with my family. I can just chill.
Yeah.
And still kind of make a good living off it. Like which one of the two do you prefer?
Yeah, I think for me it's the songwriting. That's always been my passion. Like even if I go back to like, you know, when I was younger, that was always what I was drawn to. It was the words, it was the lyrics, it was the story behind the song. So I think for me that's really where my passion is. I'm quite an introvert, you know, as a person. So I don't necessarily enjoy being at the forefront, you know, above and beyond everything else. And also I didn't really come into music wanting to be an artist, because being an artist is a very separate thing from being, you know, a songwriter or somebody that's kind of behind the scenes. It's a completely different ball game, and it requires a different skill set, I think, to really smash that. So I think for me, my safe place is definitely on the songwriting side. But like I was saying before, I think we all need to kind of stretch ourselves and push ourselves like beyond our capabilities. So for me, being the artist is definitely, you know, a journey for me and something that I'm keen to keep pushing, I think.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah.
It's
not easy though.
I can imagine. It's like you really need to a little bit come out of your comfort zone,
exactly.
Right? And I think also for a woman in the music industry is also, they kind of always appeal to certain things also around women that they want to market. So if you don't necessarily want to play the game that certain people want you to play the game, then it's always going to be a bit tougher, I guess, right?
Exactly. But I've always just been a firm believer in it's the music first for me. So music will speak for itself. If people connect with the music, then everything else will just flow. And I think for me, that's where my passion is. That is where I get to connect with people. And I think as long as I've got that solidified, everything else is cool.
And right now you're more on like the house and dance and pop music side of things.
Yeah.
Do you still also dabble in other genres and always have that growth as an artist and be like, yeah, let me try out different avenues? And or is that something where you see yourself for the future as well? Yeah,
definitely. I'm always writing different genres of music, because not only am I writing for myself, but also write for other people. So some people, you know, are looking for R&B songs, or they're looking for, you know, straight pop songs, or, you know, it's all different genres. So for me, I'm always writing different genres, because I think it's important to diversify the kind of genre of music that I write. It's very important. And also it's boring if you just write the same stuff all the time. So you got to kind of mix it up and stuff. But I think where my influences are very R&B, I love writing that stuff. So yeah, wherever there's an opportunity, I'm always writing that stuff.
And writing that stuff is also very intuitive, you said, right, for you?
Yeah.
So, I mean, in one article it says sometimes you stand in the queue at the supermarket and
Yeah.
the idea comes to you. Is it, I mean, for young songwriters, what tip would you give them if they want to harness that creative writing energy? How do you go about that process?
Well, I think it's different for everybody. So that's the first thing. It's like what works for me is not necessarily going to work for somebody else. But I think it's just very important just to give yourself that freedom, just to be creative. You know, sometimes we kind of like, what's that word I'm looking for? Kind of like try and filter ourselves. So like, for example, you might just be like, oh, I don't know, walking somewhere and you might say, that's an interesting word, and then completely forget about it. Well, no, it's an interesting word and it's caught your attention, so write it down. Maybe that's inspiration for like, you know, the next song that you write, or maybe it gives you certain feelings. So maybe you'll write a song about how that word makes you feel. So I think don't be afraid to like, even as silly as the thing might seem, like this glass of water. Well, I can write a song about water in what way? Oh, you know, yeah, let's move like water. Maybe I'm writing a song about us in the club or something like that. There's inspiration that can be found anywhere. But what I'm saying is don't shut down your ideas. I think it's important just to, you know, latch onto everything.
You also have a partner which also works as a producer, and together you have 2 children, right?
Yeah.
Like a 6-year-old son and an 11-year-old son.
Yeah.
Called Arlo and Brooklyn. And I mean, one of them happens to be like quite like a soccer or a football prodigy. I always call it soccer, I'm sorry. And plays for Arsenal Academy.
Yeah.
How do you juggle like being a mom and still also going about your music career? Because obviously both takes a lot of time, and especially if you have one son that also needs furthering of a certain talent, which also requires you of being at place A, B, C, and D in a day. How do you juggle it?
Well, it's first of all having a very supportive partner. That's the first thing, because there's only one of me. I can't do it all myself. So I have a lot to thank him for, definitely. But I think it is tough. That's the truth. You know, it is hard, but it's not just for women like me in the music industry, just for women in general who want to have any kind of career. You know, you have to find that balance somehow, somewhere. And I have been put in situations where I've had to choose between, you know, a really good gig or a good show, high-level show. I remember this very clearly, and it fell on the same day as my son's birthday party. So it was like, well, this is a really good show and this could be a game changer for you. Or you could just go to your son's birthday party and be, you know, a good mom.
Of course.
So dilemmas like that where you're like, wow, like this is really real. I chose my son's party. But what I'm saying is the fact that you've even got to think about those things, you know, you have to kind of weigh up those decisions is tough. Because at the same time, you want to further your career. I mean, you want to take every opportunity and say yes to every opportunity, but at the same time, family's first for me. So, yeah, it's tough, but we find a balance. We always find a way. That's in everything.
I mean, I kind of have the same position, right? Like with being self-employed.
Yeah.
But I'm always of the opinion I don't know at what age that birthday party was, but I think kids kind of do understand as from a certain point that if you kind of miss maybe like an important event and it has something to do with furthering your career or work, I think they tend to also understand at a certain point in life. Yeah. And then maybe if you miss one birthday, it's fine. But of course, in that sense, family is always first.
Yeah, I think so. But a very close relative always said to me, like, you shouldn't feel guilty for working because ultimately you're doing that for them anyway, which I think is true. But I think in the moment, sometimes it doesn't feel like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I hear you.
In the end, it's about balance, right? You cannot miss too much of their life. Yeah. But at the same time, you also need to make sure that you can actually supply for them, right?
Definitely.
So, and I mean, the successful character traits that you have or the work ethic that you have in your job, are there like certain things that you're very adamant about that you are teaching Brooklyn to also be successful in what he does?
I'm just a firm believer in just getting stuff done. So I'm not somebody that likes to say, oh, let's leave it till tomorrow. Let's just do that tomorrow. Let's put that off. I'm somebody that's like, okay, I've got a deadline. The deadline is, you know, 3 days' time. I want to get that thing finished tomorrow already.
Okay.
You know, and I'm not saying to rush, but what I'm saying is it's like, it's just having that work ethic of just being on it. And I think if you wake up, you make your bed straight away, you brush your teeth, even if you've got nothing to do for the day, get dressed, just having that routine, I think for me is very, very important. So that's kind of what I try to you know, help my sons with, I think, going forward, which is just have a routine. Good preparation, I think, is also really, really important, and just be on it. So like if the deadline is Tuesday, you shouldn't be waiting till Tuesday to start that thing, you know? So yeah, just be on it and just have a good routine that works for you. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I mean, I'm super curious how that turns out and how.
So am I.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a pleasure for sure to have you here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And I hopefully we see you soon in Berlin again. Also
Definitely.
maybe like working with artists out here.
Yes.
I can definitely also connect you with some people.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Thank
you
you for
for
having
your
me.
time. Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
No problem at all.